G'day. Today I thought I'd do a teardown of a computer power supply, or PSU we sometimes call them. This one's come out of a PC and I consider it to be stuffed. Not 100% sure, but the machine definitely ran better with the new one. This particular brand, ISO, really haven't seen it before. It's probably a cheap brand, maybe, I'm not sure. It's a 480 watt. It has the 24 pin mainboard connector plus the single 4 pin mainboard connector. This is a SATA power connector, and here we have a Molex power connector for the older CD-ROMs and hard drives. This one here is, if you can see it, help. This one here is a floppy disk drive power connector. On the back of the power supply is the on and off switch, the power connector. This is where the fan is. In this case, on the bottom of the power supply we have 1, 2, 3, and there'll be a 4th screw hidden underneath this do not remove tape. Okay, so using a Phillips screwdriver, I remove the 4 screws. Tape, do not remove. And it should just come apart somehow. Well, this one looks a bit different. It is apparently a transformer bolted to the lid. Have not seen that before. Normally don't pull power supplies apart. I just think they're faulty and chuck them out. Okay, now the lid's off. Now, as I say, this is a bit of a tear down. After I finish pulling this power supply down a bit, I'm just going to chuck it out. I'm not going to reuse it. Well, I guess it's not really a tear down, it's just simply take the cover off and let's look inside. So this is a bit different. It has a basic transformer, which was bolted to the cover. Now you can see here there's some transistors here with the heat sinks. This white stuff here is just a bit of gunk that the supplier puts on to keep things in place, stop things moving around a little bit. You can see in here, can you see in there? Maybe not. You see here there's a fuse. If it blows you can replace it, but you have to solder it. And then of course if it does blow you're wondering why it did, and typically just replace the power supply. More components here, these coils, some capacitors, and if you can see these two orange capacitors, and you'll see that they have a funny orangey top to them, and if you can see it from the angle, you might not be able to. They do look a little bit raised. So these capacitors here are buggered, and I say what's happened is over time, with a bit of stress from the mains, this power supply has been weakened. The capacitors are starting to leak. It's not providing correct voltage to the computer all the time, and things are going bad. So this is buggered. This is going to be chucked out. One thing, and this power supply was doing it, was a noisy fan. You turn it on and it would make a noise. After probably about 5 or 10 minutes, it would quieten down. If you do have a power supply with a noisy fan, you can replace it. Some of them are easy, some are hard. This one has a connector, has a fan connector right here, so it makes it a little bit easier. We typically don't replace the fan, we again replace the whole unit. But rather a noisy fan than one that doesn't work. And just a little bit extra, I end up pulling the board off the case here and looked at the back, and I reckon this is not quality. The mouse shoulder just here where all the power wires go in, not the best job in the world. This time it's a Gigabyte 420 watt power supply. So this I'd probably call a mid-range quality power supply. And funnily enough, I think it weighs a little bit more than this 480 cheaper unit I pulled apart before. Similar connections, has the 24 pin mainboard connector. It separates into two parts, the 20 pin for the older boards and then the extra 4 pins for the newer boards. Then there will be a 4 pin CPU connector for the main board. This one is wire tied to the bottom of the fan here. That's not uncommon. It just keeps the cable away from the CPU. Again, I have the Molex connector for older hard drives and CD-ROMs. The SATA power connector for newer DVD drives and newer hard drives. This one has a 6-pin video card connector, floppy disk drive. Now this one, the fan's different. So on the back there's no power switch, just a power cord connector, and there's no fan on the back. The fan is placed on the bottom. So this is a bigger fan, and it sucks air into the power supply, which then comes out to the back. The other one we had before pushed air out the back, which was sucked in on the other side of the power supply. So screws for this one is this. two here. And the two other screws, well, there's one here. And of course, do not remove the sticker. And that's for the fourth screw, which I'll also remove. And then we pull it apart. So this is the fan, and inside is all the componentry. Layout's a bit different from the other one. Next, he doesn't have the capacitor problem the first power supply had. All the caps look like they're intact. When we see the capacitors get bulgy and they start to leak, not good. Sometimes they can even leak from the bottom, but typically from the top. There should be a fuse somewhere, and I can't see where that is. They all don't have fuses, and I'd say this one doesn't have a fuse. Now, when I pulled this power supply out of the system was working okay, but there was a few strange things happening, and we didn't know what it was. And it's sometimes just a good idea to replace the power supply as a starting point and to see where it goes. If you pull the power supply out with it and put a new one in, and you still have the same problem, then you can always put the old power supply back in. Okay, computer power supplies, thank you. And by the way, it does have a fuse. You can see it right in here.